Malta, sun-soaked, ancient and breathtaking. But beneath its golden beauty lies a darker side, one whispered in legends, etched in stone, and felt in every cold chill after sunset. From cursed catacombs to haunted fortresses, these are the places where history refuses to die. Welcome to the top 15 haunted places in Malta. If you dare, stay with us till the end. 1. Verdala Palace. Deep within the misty woodland of Busquet Gardens in Malta lies Verdala Palace, a majestic 16th century fortress, once the summer retreat of grand masters, now cloaked in chilling legends. Beneath its elegant limestone walls and Baroque grandeur, whispers of the supernatural swirl like the ever-present wind. Locals speak in hushed tones about the Blue Lady, the spirit of a noblewoman who took her own life after being forced into a loveless marriage. It's said her ghost wanders the palace halls, her flowing blue gown glowing in the moonlight, her cries echoing through the night. Guards have refused to work alone, and visitors claim to see her face in the windows, even when the palace is empty. Verdala may seem serene by day, but by night, it breathes with secrets from the beyond. 2. Medina. High atop a silent hill in Malta stands Medina, the ancient silent city, where time seems frozen and shadows stretch longer than they should. Once the capital, now a haunting labyrinth of narrow alleys and echoing footsteps, Medina hides more than just history. By day, it charms with medieval beauty, but when night falls, it becomes a ghostly realm. Locals tell of phantom carriages that rattle down deserted streets, and a headless nun who drifts through the alleys, seeking vengeance for a brutal betrayal centuries ago. Her presence chills the air, and many have fled after feeling unseen hands brush their skin. Candles flicker for no reason, whispers rise from empty courtyards, and even the bravest admit something watches. Medina is not just silent, it listens, and sometimes it answers back. 3. Gozo. Far from the mainland's lights, the island of Gozo rises from the sea like a forgotten relic. Beautiful, isolated, and deeply haunted. Beneath its sun-soaked cliffs and ancient temples lies a darker, older energy. The Gantija temples, older than the pyramids, are said to have been built by giants, and some swear they still walk the hills at night. But it's not just myth that chills the blood. In Gozo's countryside, a cursed farmhouse sits abandoned, where entire families vanished without trace, leaving dinner still warm on the table. Locals avoid it, claiming to hear screams from inside, even though it's been locked for decades. Whispers tell of shadowy figures near Ramla Bay and ghostly monks wandering the ruins of Sukiya. Gozo may be a paradise by day, but as darkness falls, its ancient past wakes, and it never sleeps. 4. Manuel Island. Hidden in plain sight within Marsamxett Harbor lies Manuel Island, a place of beauty by day and unspeakable horror by night. Once a military stronghold and quarantine station, its history is stained with death and despair. At the heart of the island stands Fort Manuel, an 18th century fortress where plague victims were locked away to die. Some say their souls never left. The most feared presence is the Black Knight, a spectral figure in armor who patrols the fort's ramparts, eyes glowing, sword in hand. Soldiers stationed here have vanished without a trace, and locals report eerie chanting echoing from the underground chambers. Even animals refuse to cross the bridge after dusk. The wind carries whispers and shadows move without a source. On Manuel Island, the past doesn't rest, it hunts. The Medina Dungeons Museum. Beneath the ancient streets of Medina lies a place where light dares not linger. The Medina Dungeons Museum, a chilling maze of underground chambers steeped in centuries of agony. Once a real prison and torture site, this museum doesn't just display Malta's darkest history, it breathes it. Stone walls echo with the silent screams of the condemned, victims of the Inquisition, traitors, and tortured souls who never left. Figures in chains seem too lifelike, eyes following your every move, and some visitors swear they blink. Cold spots strike without warning, and muffled cries drift through the halls. Shadows shift even when you're standing still. Many have fled mid-tour, unable to shake the feeling they're being watched. The Medina Dungeons aren't just a glimpse into the past. They're a gateway to something far more sinister, something still waiting in the dark. Six, Fort St. Angelo. Rising from the Grand Harbor like a sleeping beast, Fort St. Angelo stands as Malta's most formidable fortress, and perhaps its most haunted. With over 1,000 years of blood-soaked history, its walls have witnessed sieges, executions, and whispered pacts in the dark. But it's not just history that lingers here. Guards have reported the Grey Lady, a spirit draped in tattered robes, wandering the corridors and vanishing through locked doors. Echoes of bootsteps march across empty courtyards, and cannon blasts ring out in the dead of night, with no battle in sight. Deep within the dungeons, cold gusts and ghostly voices rise from nowhere, as if the souls of tortured prisoners still cry for mercy. Some say the Knights of St. John left behind more than legacy. They left a curse. At Fort St. Angelo, the past is alive, and it does not forgive. The 7, Grandmaster's Palace Courtyard. At the heart of Valletta lies the Grandmaster's Palace, a symbol of power, elegance, and hidden torment. But step into its grand courtyard after dark, and the air thickens with something unholy. Beneath the ornate arches and solemn statues, shadows slither across the marble when no one walks. Legends tell of the Whispering Guard, a ghostly sentinel who once betrayed the order and was executed within the walls. Now, his spirit stalks the courtyard endlessly, whispering secrets in an ancient tongue. Tourists report cold hands brushing their necks, and some claim the statues shift their gaze ever so slightly when no one's looking. Even guards admit to hearing footsteps in empty halls and voices rising from beneath the stones. The Grand Master's palace may shine with history by day, but by night, its silent courtyard becomes a stage for Malta's most restless dead. L8, Manuel Theater. Behind the velvet curtains and golden balconies of Valletta's Manuel Theater, one of Europe's oldest working theaters, lurks a darkness that no spotlight can chase away. Built in 1731, this elegant stage has seen centuries of drama, but some performances never ended. The most infamous spirit is the Phantom of the Manuel, a shadowy figure in period costume who appears in the upper boxes and vanishes when approached. Actors have heard applause from empty seats, and ghostly footsteps echo backstage long after the curtain falls. Cold drafts sweep across the stage, props move on their own, and faint singing can be heard when the theater is locked and silent. One caretaker even quit after being locked inside by invisible hands. The Manuel Theater is not just a home for art, it's a haunting ground for souls who refuse to take their final bow. Then Villa-Sans-Souci. Tucked away in the quiet streets of Marzec-Sloc, Villa-Sans-Souci stands in eerie silence, its decaying walls and shattered windows hiding a legacy soaked in sorrow. Once a lavish mansion, its name means without worries. But nothing could be further from the truth. Rumors speak of a family tragedy so gruesome that the house was abandoned overnight, plates still set on the table. Locals report ghostly faces in the windows, lights flickering inside though there's no electricity, and a woman's scream piercing the night air. The scent of perfume drifts through empty rooms, followed by an icy breath on your neck. Paranormal investigators have recorded voices pleading for help, and even the bravest won't enter alone. Villa Sans Souci may look like a forgotten ruin, but something inside remembers, and it's waiting in the dark. White Rocks Complex. Once a buzzing holiday resort by the sea, the White Rocks Complex now lies in haunting ruin. A crumbling skeleton of broken dreams and something far more sinister. Located near Bahar-ik-Kaghak, its abandoned halls and sun-bleached corridors have become a magnet for ghost hunters and thrill seekers. But many leave shaken, speaking of a dark presence. An unseen force that watches, stalks, and whispers. Doors slam shut on their own. Strange symbols appear on the walls, and cold spots bite through even the hottest summer night. Some say the land was cursed long before construction began, tied to ancient rituals buried beneath the soil. Others claim to see shadowy figures darting between buildings, always just out of reach. The White Rocks may look like a relic of Malta's past, but step inside and you'll find that the past isn't dead. It's hungry. Chapter 11. Fort St. Elmo. Standing guard at the edge of Valletta, Fort St. Elmo is a fortress drenched in blood and legend, a place where the stones themselves seem to remember pain. It was here, during the Great Siege of 1565, that hundreds of knights were slaughtered, their bodies thrown into the sea, their heads displayed on pikes. Today, their spirits are said to roam the ramparts, armor clanking through the night. The most feared apparition is the Weeping Knight, a spectral figure who kneels where the chapel once stood, mourning the fallen. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature, phantom gunshots, and screams that echo across the empty bastions. Lights flicker in sealed rooms, and ghostly silhouettes have been caught on camera. Fort St. Elmo is not just a relic of war. It is a tomb of restless souls, forever bound to the battlefield where they fell. Chapter 12. St. John's Co-Cathedral. Beneath the breathtaking beauty of St. John's Co-Cathedral in Valletta, with its gilded ceilings and Caravaggio masterpiece, lies a cryptic underworld of shadows and silence. Built by the Knights of St. John, the cathedral holds the remains of grandmasters and warriors, entombed beneath the very marble visitors walk upon. But some say they never truly rest. Candles flicker without wind, cold air coils through the nave, and chanting can be heard when the cathedral is empty. The most chilling tale is that of the black-robed monk, a figure seen gliding through the pews at twilight, vanishing before the altar. Tourists report a heavy presence pressing on their chests, sudden dizziness, and eyes watching from the carved stone. St. John's may be divine by day, but at night, it becomes a sanctuary not for the living, but for the sacred dead who refuse to be forgotten.
Jami Bichihi, St. Paul's Catacombs. Beneath the ancient city of Rabat lies a labyrinth of darkness. St. Paul's Catacombs, where the air is heavy with death and time stands still. Carved into stone over 2,000 years ago, these tunnels were once a sacred burial ground. Now, they echo with the whispers of the forgotten. Walls are etched with symbols, whose meanings have long been lost, and bones have been found disturbed, as if something still moves within. Visitors often report sudden chills, disembodied voices, and the overwhelming feeling of being followed, even when alone. Some say a hooded figure roams the deepest chambers, guiding the lost or claiming them. Lights flicker, cameras malfunction, and shadows dart just beyond reach. St. Paul's catacombs are not just a glimpse into ancient rites. They are a gateway to the dead, where every breath you take feels borrowed. For 14, the Inquisitor's Palace. In the heart of Vittoriosa stands the Inquisitor's Palace, once a place of justice, now remembered for fear, torment, and silence that screams through stone. For centuries, this grand building was the seat of the Holy Inquisition, where heretics were judged, tortured, and broken in the name of faith. Beneath its opulent halls lies a dungeon where shackles still hang and scratch marks scar the walls, desperate proof of those who begged for mercy and found none. Visitors report a suffocating presence in the cells, icy fingers brushing against skin, and whispers rising from the darkness. The spirit of a condemned man, hooded and weeping, is said to wander the corridors, retracing his final walk. Even the bravest speak of dread that clings like smoke. The Inquisitor's Palace doesn't just hold history, it holds the screams of souls that were never truly freed. (15) Gajan Tufiha Tower. Perched high above the windswept cliffs of Gajan Tufiha Bay, this lonely watchtower once guarded against invaders, but now it guards something far stranger. Built in the 17th century, the tower is surrounded by beauty by day and cloaked in dread by night. Locals whisper of a woman in white who appears at twilight, staring out to sea before vanishing into thin air. Some say she was the lover of a slain soldier. Others claim she's cursed to wait for a ship that never returns. Those who enter the tower after dark report voices calling from below, footsteps circling above, and shadows that move against the wind. Even fishermen avoid the nearby waters when the moon is full. Gajan Tufiha Tower may look like a forgotten relic, but when the sun sets, it becomes a beacon for the restless dead and a trap for the living. These haunted locations aren't just relics of the past. They're alive with restless souls and forgotten screams. So next time you walk Malta's ancient streets, ask yourself, are you really alone? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because the darkness is just getting started.